Okay, so today we're going to be doing my top 10 favorite characters of all time list, and I'm sure the very next book I pick up will make this list irrelevant. Because it should be here. Because that's the way it always goes. But anyway, I do have one rule for myself for this list. I'm only allowing myself to choose one character per series. That way my favorite books don't just completely dominate the list. Also, this list isn't in any kind of order. I don't have them ranked. This is just my top 10. So now that the rule is out of the way, the first book on this list, the first character on this list is gonna break the rule, and it's Locke and Jean. Now, if I had to pick one, I would pick Jean, but I don't have to because it's my video and I'm picking the two together. But they're holding one spot together, so they're not taking up two spots. It's still cheating. I love these characters because I'm a huge fan of really ridiculously loyal friendships, people that are incredibly connected and that know each other better than they know themselves. And Locke and Jean are this. They have a great friendship in book one. We get to see their backstory. We get to see how they didn't quite connect in the beginning and see them win over each other's friendship and loyalty and brotherhood and the deep love that they have for each other, the sacrifices that they'll make for each other. But I really feel like that's even more in book two. Their friendship really shines in book two for me because we get to see one of them really, really low and the other one saying, "You're better than this, get up and move." And I love that. I love the brutal honesty that they have for each other and the high expectations of like, I know who you are and I'm gonna make sure you're that person. As well as we get to see the intense loyalty, the intense, how, daggum it, I don't want to spoil it. My favorite scene is in this book. We get to see how impenetrable their loyalty is and how much how it would break them if that were to ever be disrupted. We see them in high highs and low lows, and we see them together through it all. And I just love it. I love their dynamics so much. I also just really love them as characters, but the fact that we learn so much about them as individual characters through their friendship and through the way they work together is it adds to their characters so much. Next character on this list, I feel unsure about, but I'm putting him here anyway, and that's Friendly from Best Served Cold. I went back and forth on if I should put Glokta from the First Law trilogy here because I love Glokta so much. His tenacity, his I'm going to get things done no matter what, and his moral grayness. All of Abercrombie's characters are morally gray, but Glokta is one that just don't agree with anything, but you root for him despite that. But Friendly, who I've recently read, which is why I don't trust him to be on this list, because usually when I recently read a book that I love, it is really on the forefront of my mind. But I'm putting Friendly here, not Glokta. Stop cheating, Murph. I'm putting Friendly here because Friendly is such a good depiction of one of my favorite character types, and that's the big, strong brute who has the hard exterior and then the gooey, soft interior. He sees the world a little bit differently and doesn't really understand social cues a lot of times. Not all the characters that I love in this character type are like doesn't understand social cues, but Friendly is the lovable giant. He's the one that's really intimidating and scary, but once he finds his crew, and strong, intimidating, scary, strong, can take on the world, and once he finds his crew, he's fiercely loyal. Man, loyalty is a theme for me. Give me loyalty, you win. I almost put Udwak from the Burning series on this list. I almost put Rock from the Stormlight Archive on this list. Jean is on this list. Other characters like Loyal, which he doesn't have the hard exterior. He's soft. He's soft all around, but he's still the friendly giant. Like, that character is my jam. And Friendly is a great representation of that character, which is why he's here. I love him so much, and he has also that different angle of him where he views the world in numbers and he rolls dice to make decisions, and everything has to be sequential and have a pattern and make sense to him. And I just think that's so interesting. It's such an interesting characterization of a character that I love to see in any book in any way. Let's just keep up the theme. Speaking of loyalty, let's talk about Samwise Gamgee. So there were a lot of characters that I could have put on this list from The Lord of the Rings because I love so many characters from this series. I love Samwise. I love Merry and Pippin and Frodo and Gimli, and I think the list could go on. I'm even a really big fan of Frodo. At first I wasn't, but on reread I realized how incredibly strong and brave he is. But I guess I'm kind of stereotypical in that Sam is still my favorite because not only is he unbelievably loyal to Frodo, but his strength and his sacrifice. I mean, I guess Lord of the Rings spoilers, there's timestamps in the description, so you can skip this if you don't want to know, but it's in the movies too. But in the books specifically, when he carries Frodo up the mountain, like before he's carrying him, he's giving Frodo his food and water to keep Frodo strong because Frodo's carrying the burden of the ring and it's draining him and killing him. And so Samwise is going without food and water to give more to Frodo to keep him strong so he can carry the ring. And then when Frodo still can't do it anymore and then Sam carries Frodo, he's doing that, like, it's already an amazing scene, but the fact that he's doing that after already sacrificing so much of himself, so he's already in a weaker state, but it's like the strength of this man plus the loyalty of him. I mean, he can't even swim. He jumps into the water to get to the boat that Frodo's swimming away on. It's just, I love Sam so much, and I know that there are Sam haters out there, and you can live your life, but you can't live it next to mine because Sam is amazing. Okay, I'm gonna go in a different direction now. We're gonna talk about Spensa from Skyward. So Spensa is, I think she's 17, 16? She recently lost her dad at the beginning of this book, and she's a little bit of an outcast, a little bit exiled because of her dad's reputation. She's working hard to accomplish her dream. She wants to be a pilot in this flight school. So Spensa is, I love her. She has these barriers up. She's insulting. She's hard. She's rude, but she wants friendship and family and acceptance so bad. It's just that she pushes away everyone because she's hurting so much. And her barriers and her hard exterior and the way she pushes against people and pushes people away, her specific brand of angst is the single most I have ever seen my teenage self represented. She is the single most relatable YA character to teenage Murph I've ever seen. But the way she handles her trauma and the way she processes her anger and fear and pain is so much like how I processed my pain back in the day. And I don't know, I guess if you want to see what 13, 14, 15-year-old Murphy looked like, read Skyward, because that was me when I was in the midst of my most difficult times when I was processing a lot. And I appreciate Spensa so much because I think a lot of people could probably read her and be like, ooh, angsty teen. She's kind of annoying, but also lovable. But I read her and I'm like, oh, it's me. You process pain like I processed pain as a kid. You and me, we're the same. And I love that. And I've been putting off reading book 2 because I wanted to read it really close to book 3, but I'm probably just going to read book 2 really soon because I really want to. I want to see her arc. I want to see her growth. You know, I want to see if it looks like mine a little bit more. And even if it doesn't, I'm still going to love her because she looks too much like I used to look. Here's a surprising one. Mrs. Darling. I know that the obvious answer for Peter Pan is to pick Peter Pan, but it's actually Mrs. Darling. By the time you watch this video, when is this going up? Yeah, by the time you watch this video, my Peter Pan review is live. So go check that out if you haven't already. But you may have a pretty good idea of why I love Mrs. Darling by now if you've already watched my review for Peter Pan. Peter Pan, do I spoil? How do you talk about things without spoilers? Peter Pan is a kid that is hurting real bad, and Mrs. Darling is a mom who always keeps her windows open and who is so ready to adopt all the children that come into her home. And man, I relate to her heart. I feel her. I feel a kinship to her. I guess if Spensa is teenage Murphy, then Mrs. Darling isn't holy, but she is a reflection of a very specific piece of my heart, of the mother side of me, of always being ready for your kids, to just like be there for them and to always keep your windows open, to always be, it's hard. If you've seen the video, you understand. But Mrs. Darling's focus on her family and her devotion to her children and her love to her children and her openness and willingness and excitement, and not even questioning. She doesn't even question when all these kids come home to her and she's just like, okay, they're all mine. I'll just adopt them all. Her open window policy to every child that needs a home and needs a mom. It gets me. She gets a part of my heart that is very specific. And she's like, her whole person is the encompassment of a very specific part of me that I just appreciate her very much for that. Neville Longbottom. If we are to pick one Harry Potter character, we will pick Neville why am I a we? Why am I doing that? To pick one Harry Potter character, it has to be Neville every time. I have a video about my headcanon of Neville Longbottom being the chosen one. If you want to check that out, I love Neville. He is the forgetful, the not capable in the beginning wizard character that isn't great at magic, isn't great at humaning, and that is picked on and bullied. And he's the underdog that his whole, dadgummit, spoilers if you skip timestamps, his whole arc in this series is just the best. I mean, my golly, he goes from being the ultimate underdog. I mean, he himself says when in book 3, when Sirius Black is around and they're all scared of him, and No, it was book 2. In book 2, when the basilisk is coming around killing Muggleborns, and he's like, everybody knows I'm practically a squib. And it's like, even his magical abilities don't come easy for him. And everybody around him, including his family, puts him down and thinks that he's less. And his triumph over adversity, his ability to rise up and be in the DA and be one of the leading members of the DA and being one of the most instrumental people in the final battle, his arc is incredible, and I would love for the entire series to be from his perspective. Okay, let's go back to Stormlight. I already mentioned Rock. He was obviously in the running for this. There were a lot of characters that were actually in the running for Stormlight specifically. Navani is a character that I absolutely adore. Cal, Dalinar. There are so many great characters in this series that I love so much that it was really hard for me to pick one. And so I went for one that you may not expect. I went with Hoyd. Why did I go with Hoyd? I don't even feel confident about this one. Kind of like Friendly. It could go in a lot of different directions. I went with Hoyd because I love his humor. Every single scene he's in, I'm cracking up. And there are so many scenes that he's in that if I just stop and pause and try to imagine it all in my head, try to play it all out fully visually, it's the most hilarious. Like, do you remember that scene? This isn't a spoiler. Do you remember that scene when Hoyd, he jumps on the carriage? I think this was book 3. Yeah, it was book 3. When he jumps on the carriage and he's like talking to them, and then they turn away and they're talking to each other, and then they look back and Hoyd's not there anymore, and then the carriage driver, he said that Hoyd told him to tell them something as he was running away giggling. And like to stop and actually picture that scenario, picture Hoyd like jumping into a bush the moment no one's eyes are on him and just like giggling as he's scurrying away. I love his character so much. Not only is he really incredible, I mean, I have no idea of his abilities. He his abilities are, I'm sure, even more astounding than I realize, and we're gonna keep seeing that. But his humor and his silliness and goofiness and ridiculous nature, I enjoy Hoyd's scenes and his wisdom. How can I not bring that up too? His wisdom, his ability to, okay, skip this if you don't want any spoilers. This is also an Oathbringer. Remember the scene with Shallan when this was Rhythm of War. Remember Shallan when she was telling the story about the wall, and Hoyd said, well, why do you think that they would be trying to keep the people out? And she said, because people are monsters, or something like that. And then Hoyd's response to her, and he goes, oh, Shallan, you're not a monster. Like, his wisdom to speak into whatever moment he walks into, his kindness, his understanding of people. Like, Hoyd is fascinating and a mystery and silly and goofy and ridiculous and so wise and important. I really love his character. I don't know if he's my favorite, but he's the one I chose for this list. Next on this list technically counts. It's Iroh. He was in the graphic novels, so he counts. Iroh, I don't know, maybe it is a cheat. I've cheated throughout this entire video. What does it matter? Because what I love about him is from the show. He's still great in the graphic novels, but he would not be on this list if I only knew him through the graphic novels. Anyway, Iroh, he's loyal. Let's start there, because we know that that's an instant win with Murph. His devotion, okay. All right, spoilers. Use the timestamps in the description if you want to skip this. It's not a big spoiler, but it's there. His devotion to Zuko, as Zuko is going through a lot. Okay, yeah, there's going to be big spoilers here. His loyalty to him, to not forcing him in any direction, but gently guiding him to what he knows is truly best for him. His incredible patience throughout all that. His wisdom, his silly, goofy quirkiness that's just so charming and ridiculous. Yet there's so much depth to him. My golly, he lost his birthright. Like, he's been pushed around so much in his life, and the fact that he takes it all in stride and smiling and with humility, willing to step aside for others to lead, and he just wants to be the gentle guiding hand to help them lead in the best way possible. That scene when Zuko comes back to him and he's like, I thought you were mad at me or something. Man, I'm really bad at perfect quotes. I think it was, I wasn't angry, I was sad because I thought I lost you. And how quickly and readily he's ready to forgive. The fact that he's like helping Zuko no matter what, but he knows the correct way to go. And then of course, the Tales of Ba Sing Se, I don't even want to talk about it. It broke me, knowing a little bit more about his past and what he's lost and what he's carrying, and I don't know, man. His character is so strong and like beautiful, and just someone that I admire. He's fictional and I admire him so much. Next on the list is gonna be a little bit less emotional, is L from Death Note. So L is a character that I went back and forth between Light and L, because I think Light is such an interesting, morally gray, I don't know if morally gray is really correct. He's such an interesting character, but I love L. I think that, I haven't watched the anime, I've only read the manga. I think that the way he's illustrated, the way they illustrate the way he sits and the way he picks up pens and the way he interacts with people is so brilliant. It's something that I don't think could have been captured in another medium. If Death Note were written as a traditional novel, I don't think L could have been captured the same. Being able to see his mannerisms was just so perfect for the type of character that he is. He's so smart, so clever, and so cunning. So cunning. But on top of that, he's an interesting sort of, not really detective, that's not the right, maybe he's technically a detective, investigator. The type of character that he is, the way his mind works, is an interesting type of character in general. But the mannerisms, the little oddities about him that make him so uniquely him. I find him so fascinating. And I enjoyed every minute that we had with this character. He surprised me a lot as well at the sheer ability that he has. The way he doesn't actually trust anyone, yet he has to trust them in order to move forward, and so he begrudgingly does, but he's still holding back. Man, I love this character. Also, I only just recently found out that there's a prequel series to Death Note that follows L. I will be buying it soon. And finally, we are ending this video on another cheat. We started on a cheat, we'll end on a cheat. This whole video is a cheat. I'm sorry. Calvin and Hobbes. If I had to pick one, I wouldn't. It's Calvin and Hobbes. And you know what? I think it works because technically Hobbes's personality is definitely a projection of Calvin's imagination. So it's not really a cheat. It's just kind of a loophole. I love Calvin and Hobbes so much. Again, we have the friendship, but their dynamic, like Calvin is the perfect epitome of a kid that's a little bit too clever and a little bit too sassy, so he's annoying to everyone around him, which I don't blame everyone for being annoyed by him, but for me, as a third-party reader, he's hilarious. The stuff that he says has me just cracking up. Drennan will read these books with me, and I think he only reads them with me and like gets enjoyment out of them because I'm laughing so hard that he laughs too, but he doesn't really get it. But someday he will. But Calvin's bluntness, his intense reactions to things, and some of the stuff he says. Oh my goodness, I love his character so much. And then of course you have Hobbes, who pounces on him when he comes home from school, who just goes along with things, and oh my golly. I guess I love Calvin more than Hobbes, but don't cut that because I love them both. Oh man, I don't know. Calvin and Hobbes is a series that I pull out regularly and just read a few comics and just feel good. I just feel good every time I read these comics. Okay, so that's my top 10 favorite characters list. It took me way longer than it probably should have, but I'd love to know who's on your list. Do we share any characters on this list? Are there any characters on my list that would make your worst characters list? And who didn't make it on this list that you thought would? Be sure to continue chatting with me about it in the comments. Check out my Patreon if you want to buddy read with me or read some of my own writing. I post videos every Tuesday through Friday. I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.